I am the Head of Risk and Insurance at Nuclear Transport Solutions, and I've worked in the industry for 11 years.
I work for Nuclear Waste Services. I'm in the HR and transformation team. I started working for Nuclear Waste Services in 2020 during lockdown.
I'm a project supervisor working in Dunray. I've been within Dunray for about 8 years now.
I am Head of Communications at Dunray. I've only been with the company since last May, so nearly a year.
I'm the Business Support Manager for Infrastructure. I've worked for Sellafield in the nuclear industry for a total of 28 years.
I'm Health and Safety and Wellbeing Manager at the NDA. I'm married to Carolyn, 25 years this year. I've got 2 daughters.
I am married to Stuart. I have 1 son, Max. We have 3 cats and a dog.
I am a single mum of a 7-year-old and I'm in a long distance relationship.
I am married and have 2 boys, aged 5 and aged 7.
I have 2 beautiful daughters, aged 27 and 17, from a previous marriage. I'm currently in a relationship and I've been with my partner now for nearly 2 years, and she has a little girl who's 6 years old.
My family consists of myself, my girlfriend, my 2-year-old daughter, my dog Max, and Lily the rabbit. Lily and Max are a handful, but then when you add a 2-year-old daughter in amongst it, it's even more fun.
Outside of work, my interests are mainly sporty. Love watching football and rugby league.
10 years ago, I took up photography as a hobby. I wanted to have a hobby that got me off from cruising around the streets when I was 19. And it's definitely changed my life having a camera in my hand that I've been able to just relax and go for wanders and landscape and wildlife and around Caithness has been great.
My hobbies are very much sport, both playing and watching football, cricket, golf and rugby. I'm also a passionate football supporter and support Carlisle United and Aston Villa.
I'm a very outdoorsy person. I love being in my garden and spend a lot of time curating, nurturing my garden.
I'm pretty obsessed with flying. I have flown a plane and I've jumped out of a plane, and my next target is to do a wing walk.
So when I'm not at work, I'm a keen motorcyclist, which I spend a lot of my spare time doing. As part of that, I also ride as a volunteer for West Cumbria Blood Bikes.
I was first diagnosed with depression in my early 20s. I had come out of quite an abusive relationship and my dad had just died. I did feel lonely and desperate, and my self-confidence had taken a massive nosedive.
I didn't realise that these issues had been with me since childhood. And it all centred around deep-rooted self-worth issues. Unable to form a bonded relationship, I always had sort of meltdowns.
I noticed first as I was trying to work through my heavy workload at the time and pain, that I just couldn't cope with it. The feeling was kind of like a deep, I can only describe it as a really, really deep-seated fear and anxiety about everything, really.
I remember my boss, he pulled me aside and he said, "I think you're quite an anxious person, Colin. We maybe need to look at that." And they seen a drop in my sort of ego, my confidence levels, my friendly nature.
The one defining moment for me was in lockdown when it all just fell apart, and I think the pressure that probably every parent had put on themselves on that day one of the homeschooling, and we were so unsure, we were so uncertain, and that was quite terrifying. It coincided with quite a traumatic event at work and also a divorce.
I was going through quite a number of changes in life. Moved house back to Cumbria, started a new job and the pressures of a new job. But as I sat there on my desk, I felt extremely odd. Then all of a sudden, I just fell, and I didn't know what was going on. One of the colleagues who was in the office at the time saw me and found me and took me to, thankfully, we had an occupational health unit where I worked at the time. The following morning, I knew I wasn't well enough to go to work, so I stayed at home. However, quite quickly the panic attacks returned. I started having one panic attack after another, after another, after another. It was advised that I went to the local mental wellbeing hospital.
I find that my triggers are when other people come to me for advice or support as well, which is really hard because naturally I want to help.
When something was going wrong, or you could sense something going wrong, I had so many voices in my head, I was panicking, there was so much stuff happening.
Travelling around the country a lot, spend a lot of time on my own, travelling, being peripatetic, really meant I spent a lot of time in my own head, so a lot of opportunity to overthink.
The family, illness, the moving the jobs, the change in the houses, and then a divorce basically was a considerable amount of pressure.
I carried a lot of self-worth issues around not feeling lovable, not being able to be loved, around forming a strong bonded connection with another child that wasn't mine, the guilt around that because I've got my own children as well.
It was a time in my life where there was a lot of change, and I don't think I was able to cope with that as well as I could have. I did feel extremely lonely, and that kind of manifested itself then again when I was in politics, because it's a very lonely job.
I can mind sitting on someone's doorstep, one of my work colleagues' doorstep, saying, I need to come and speak to you, I need to sit down and just talk. And that reassurance from someone above me, that made me see that, no, Colin, you're doing okay, you just need to settle down and try and get through this difficult time, you know.
You know, I regarded myself in some respects as like a clown without makeup. You know, everybody thought I was this fun, outgoing guy with not a care in the world, and nobody knew I was absolutely dying inside.
You don't want to reach out in the first case, but once you've done it, you wish you'd done it earlier.
Although extremely scary at the time, I now look back and think it was the best thing to possibly happen to me, because that allowed me professional support. It allowed me to be diagnosed with anxiety.
So it was important that I went through that kind of discovery of finding those things that help and support me, so that they're in my toolbox, so that I can pick them out whenever I feel that balance is shifting.
One of my biggest learning points for me was around looking after my physical health. So that meant doing lots of exercise, eating well, you know, eating fruit, eating vegetables, going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, playing football again, going swimming, playing rugby, playing golf, all the activities I used to do, I proactively did that.
It wasn't until I went through talking therapies that I realised that I was worthwhile and I could start that healing process myself.
You know, just through the continuous work and growth, everything just seemed to get better. And the only way I can describe it, it's like I'm seeing life through HD, you know, whereas it's always looked foggy. I am Sam Guy, and this is me.
I am Polly, and this is me.
I am Colin Campbell, and this is me.
I am Richard James, and this is me.
I'm Dave Dixon, this is me.
I'm Gail Ross, and this is me.
It's quite cathartic, isn't it? Talking it all through. Particularly, you know, I live on my own, So the only other person I talk to is a 7-year-old.